Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. With this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing a GeForce RTX 4090 in Monster Hunter Wilds. One of the most unoptimized games out there, I hear. I have not tested the game yet, this is my first time here, but I've heard horrible things, and scrolling down here to the system requirements shows us that they are asking for an RTX 4060 or an RX 6700 XT as the recommended GPU for 1080p 60 FPS medium settings with frame generation. This is absolutely ridiculous because 60 FPS with FG is a bad experience, you know. There's a lot of input lag there because the baseline FPS are terrible. Yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous right here, Capcom. Imagine the requirements if it wasn't for frame generation. Interestingly, by the way, I do have the 4060, I have the 6700 XT, I have 16 gigs of RAM, of course, and I also have the Ryzen 5 3600X, so I will be making a recommended requirements video on it. Anyway, let's move on. You can see all of the GPU specs right here in Tech Power-Ups GPU 0. Saddle bar is enabled as well, and over on the left, I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X3D CPU with half of its cores disabled, so we're only utilizing the 3DV cache cores. They're faster for gaming. And over on the memory tab, I'm using 32 gigabytes of 6000 megatransfers per second DDR5 in dual channel CL30. Let's get into it, shall we? Okay, first things first, it is compiling the shaders, so that means that it will reduce some of the stuttering that would happen otherwise. That's great to see. I like to see a shader compilation feature. All right, let's go over the settings now. I'm starting at 4K resolution, which is an adequate res for a 4090, right? VSync is disabled, and we're utilizing the Ultra preset. I'm just going to disable DLSS, which comes on by default, and this is native resolution now, of course. Everything else is set to the maximum. Anyway, it also has a resolution scaling slider, which is interesting. We can set it to like 200% for 8K resolution testing, and if I set the desktop to 8K, we can actually do 200% of that, which is 16K. It's going to be interesting, okay? And over here on the anti-aliasing, we're using FXAA plus TAA. All right, guys, here we are playing in the desert at the moment. The GPU usage is fluctuating a little bit. I hope it's not CPU bound or anything like it was in also another Capcom game, Dragon's Dogma 2. Dragon's Dogma 2. Okay, I'm gonna start counting our FPS actually. This is pretty interesting what's happening here. Graphics are great from what I can tell. I mean, some textures don't really look that amazing, but yeah, it looks nice and detailed, but the FPS that we're getting, especially in the desert area of the game, which are usually pretty not intensive, alright, easy to run, it's a little bit underwhelming, right? Like 70s, looking at this scene. There are much more beautiful titles with a lot more detail where the 4090 gets way higher FPS. So there's that, guys. A little bit of stuttering here and there whenever those things are happening, like effects and so on. What the heck? What are we supposed to do? Oh boy, okay, I did it. I don't know what I did, but I did it. Hello, who are you? Are we saving this poor bastard? Okay, there we go. Yeah, nice graphics there on the face of our thing. I don't know what that is. Let's go. I've not played the previous one, by the way, aside from benchmarking. I did benchmark it a little bit sometimes. After seeing the system requirements and seeing what people have been telling me in the comments about this game, it's terribly optimized and so on, I thought it was going to run worse. I mean, yes, this is a 4090, and I just tested this GPU yesterday in Horizon Forbidden West, a game, or actually Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, which is kind of the same as Horizon Forbidden West in terms of graphics and so on, because it's the remastered version. And yeah, that game looks a heck of a lot more impressive than this one, at least here in the desert. Right? Like, it has a ton of detail, and it was running with around like 90 to 100 FPS most of the time, without any of those little frame time spikes at all, you know. It was an awesome experience. Over here, with the best GPU in the world at the moment, you can only get around 67 FPS average, which is, yeah, over in this area, there's a bit more detail. Look at that. As soon as we go inside of some vegetation, like that one back there, at least, it does drop into the mid-50s. So I believe like in a big forest area, it will definitely become more intensive than what we're seeing here, guys. Should we try utilizing some frame generation? I think with frame generation on top of the FPS that we're getting here, it will most likely have like 100 FPS or something like that. It's going to be an amazing experience. Obviously, I really don't like the fact that you need frame generation on such an expensive GPU for the game to be above 60 FPS all of the time. Okay, so it just got me out of the menu for some reason. And okay, now fighting this guy over here. We're constantly in the 50s, look at that. So we're finally out of the desert. Just seeing sand, right? And as soon as we're seeing a few more rocks around us and a little bit of a monster here, it's a small monster, I guess, compared to what we've seen, it is constantly in the 50s. So yeah, it will definitely get way more intensive. Just look in the other direction and do that again, please. Thank you. No, that direction. Oh my, okay. So the game doesn't pause, so we might actually need to kill the bastard first? No. Okay, Jack is right there fighting him. Let's go. Alright, so we can't use frame generation over native resolution. We need to enable DLSS here. Can we do DLAA? Yes, we can. So native res, AI anti-aliasing, that's what DLAA is. And let's enable frame generation on top of that. And here... it's a little bit worse than what I was expecting. I thought we'd get like 100 FPS. It's getting 80s and 90s. Not amazing, but I mean, this is way smoother and hopefully... look in the other direction, dude. Why does he keep attacking the wall? I'm looking at the guy. My God. Okay. Gonna start counting the frames. Can we get out, actually? That would be great. I am sick of this guy. I'm more sick of my guy. My character. This is stupid. Come on. Again, I told you, I don't play Monster Hunter, okay? There's a little bit of input lag because the base frame rate was like at 50 something FPS, you know. So you can definitely feel that little bit of input lag, but it's not bad or anything, especially in a game like this, I guess. This guy just doesn't die, and we need to slay him. Oh my gosh, please. Please, this is frustrating. I think we did it, right? Maybe? No? He was sleeping. Why were you sleeping? Oh my gosh. End quest. Okay, we did it. Finally. After 15 minutes of fighting this thing. Why? Why did it take so long? In this area, it's a bit more interesting, I guess, because we can finally see more NPCs and like a little city or something, you know, settlement. And it might be more intensive. Obviously, also because this is a beta, performance can improve, I guess. It's not where we need to go. Oh, this is a big boy over here. Okay, interesting. Let me just check it out without frame generation again in this area. Disable FG. DLAA might also be intensive, so I'm going to disable that as well. So back to native res. Getting around, yeah, 50 to 60 FPS here. With a $1,600 GPU, and the GPU usage is fluctuating, guys. Once again, getting 50s and fluctuating. I wonder if we are CPU bound over here, because in Dragon's Dogma, we were heavily CPU bound in the city, but the city was way bigger than this. But still, I'm gonna set the render scaling to 50%. This is a GPU bound setting, so if we are CPU bound, now that the game is essentially running at 1080p resolution, we should see the same FPS as before, but we aren't seeing the same FPS as before. So it wasn't really CPU bound, it was something else causing GPU usage to lower down into the mid-90s sometimes. Okay, so back to 100% resolution, and yeah, we're getting those 50s once again. Yeah, I don't like it, guys. We should go in this direction, I guess. No? No, but... the map says that we need to go, but I would like to go. I decide where I want to go. Maybe mounting this guy we can go? Yes, okay. Okay, see, this was where we needed to go. My God, I thought I was gonna die there. Okay, all good. This was where I needed to go after all. We just needed to mount this thing. Also, still getting 50s around here, guys. Oh my gosh, that's pretty terrible. At least it's not CPU bound, as we know already. Down into the low 50s sometimes. inside of bushes and stuff. 40s! It can drop into the 40s! Yeah, this means that like a 4080 and 4080 Super would probably... Can you stop? Can you stop? Stop. Just stop, please. Thank you. 4080 or 4080 Super would get like 30s. Yeah, it is bad. You need the best GPU possible if you want to play at 4K resolution without any upscaling. Well, let's try DLSS 3.5 on quality now without frame generation. This is also a nice way to play games usually. Just DLSS quality 4K. You get a good FPS bump. And I guess these are the FPS that... No, you know what? I was going to say these are the FPS that we should have gotten at native 4K in my opinion. But no, it is a 4090, come on! These are the FPS that we should have gotten at native 4K if we were playing on like a 4080, I guess. Even then, it wouldn't be a well-optimized title, okay? Let's see if we can find a little bit more intensive of an area here. No, not really. Oh, no! It's here! This is one of the monsters. Okay, go away, go away. You're fine, buddy. I don't want to hit you, and I don't want to kill you. I guess... we are supposed to in this game. It's Monster Hunter. But yeah, with DLSS quality, things are at 60 plus FPS all of the time, I guess. It didn't even drop near the vegetation. And if you want to enable frame generation on top of that, it's going to be even better. Obviously, this way you are losing a little bit of visual fidelity, coupling the upscaler with the frame generator, you know. Things are slightly softer, but not to the point where it matters much, honestly. If you want that higher refresh rate experience or close to high refresh rate experience, well, just do this. DLSS quality, frame generation. It works pretty well this way. It still looks very pretty. I'm using a 42-inch monitor, and I can tell it's a little bit softer, but unlike a 32-inch or a 27-inch monitor, it shouldn't be as noticeable, the difference, you know? And inside of vegetation, there are no artifacts that I can notice either. What is... Oh my! Okay, this is interesting. I like that this happened, a little bit of variety, you know? Keep on going here, 120 almost. Yeah, 125 right there. Not bad. So in the middle of the desert, as you can see, where nothing is happening, you can indeed get higher FPS, obviously. But if you go into a little bit of vegetation, it still can drop from 100 FPS, even with frame generation plus DLSS quality. Alright, so with that said, I think we should now move on, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna stay here. Seems like a decent place to rest. And I think it's time for us to check out no frame generation, no DLSS. I'm just gonna disable all of this. And let's do 200% resolution scale. Oh my god, it doesn't. Okay, wait. If I click there, okay, there we go. 200% resolution scale. This is 8K resolution, all right? And it's getting 24. It's a cinematic experience here at 8K resolution. I think with some DLSS, it's going to work pretty well. But I think to enable DLSS, we actually need to set the resolution to 8K and not the render scaling, okay? All right, it's working now, 7680 by 4320 native, okay? And it's borderless window because it doesn't have a full screen mode, by the way. It always keeps enabling VSync by default. That's very annoying. Developers, fix, please. Well, you got more important things to fix, I think, first. Let's disable this, go back to the game. I mean, it's already kind of getting the same FPS that we saw previously. All right, here we go, guys. We're back here, getting 20 FPS. It's pretty much the same, once again, as that 200% resolution scale. So, super cinematic experience, I guess. And now we're playing with other people as well. We're in a server, okay? And I guess with up to 100 people, which is what the servers support, it will probably get CPU bound heavily, right? Oh boy. Let's do like performance DLSS at 8K, which is usually a pretty nice resolution to play at, you know? It upscales from 1440p to 8K, and it's actually very, very similar in visuals to native 8K. I can tell a difference on a 42-inch monitor at least. Also, GPU usage is once again not maxing out fully. It could be because of reflex, but it could also be because now we're in a very populated server with a lot of people running around, And it could be CPU bound. I doubt it though, but the CPU usage is going up to like 80% at times. Oh boy! Could it be CPU bound? Wait a second, guys. I'm gonna try setting the oh, it just crashed. I touched the render scaling slider to lower it, and it instantly crashed. This is no good at 8K. I mean, you can get it to be playable with DLSS, but don't. Also, I tried 200% resolution scale already, and I tried launching the game with 200% resolution scaling at 8K resolution natively, and it didn't work, okay? It kept crashing and crashing and crashing every single time, so we can't really test 16K resolution. Oh my god. No! Guys, we're getting 50 FPS now, but this is 1440p resolution, okay? We're at 2560 by 1440, no VSync is being utilized, and we're at ultra settings still with no upscaling. So native resolution, 100% resolution scale, and it is dropping from 60 FPS. It can go over 60 FPS, as you can see, it's getting up into the 80s, but looking in this direction with all of these people on screen, it goes down into the 50s at times. That's insane! These are like the fastest specs for gaming that you can get today. And this game drops from 60 FPS at 1440p. It is obviously a CPU bound scenario all of the time. You can see GPU utilization is hovering around like 90 FPS, dropping down into the 80 FPS range sometimes, even lower than that, 78% right there for a second. So the 4090 is just underutilized at 1440p resolution, and if I set it to 1080p, it would be exactly the same because it's CPU bound at the moment. Damn! So they really need to fix this issue, the CPU bottleneck issue. Obviously, the game is too intensive for what it looks like on the GPU side of things as well. You know, when we were playing single player, it was GPU bound, and it was still dropping into the 50s sometimes at 4K native, and it doesn't look impressive, graphically speaking, in my opinion. But I think they need to focus first on the CPU performance, because if a 7950X3D with half of its cores disabled, which is basically the same as a 7800X3D, the fastest CPU for gaming, is dropping frames from 60 FPS here, what will most people get here? Like 30 FPS? 40 FPS with like a Ryzen 5 5600X or something like that? Obviously not with a 4090, but yeah. At least down here you can still get up to like 90 FPS at times. GPU usage fluctuates a bit still into like the low 90s at times, but it's always above 60 FPS outside. But if you go to an area with a lot of different people, again, you already know, it becomes heavily CPU bound. Now, whenever you are CPU bound, you can always enable some frame generation. I'm enabling it over DLAA here. And now we're getting 100 something FPS, which is much nicer, of course. Obviously, it's just FG over native, so it still looks pretty sharp and detailed. No problems. It might have some artifacting here and there, but I mean, once again, this is still a beta, so things can improve. Maybe this is why they recommend frame generation to be enabled with the recommended requirements, because over here, with a 3600X, especially if you didn't have FG, it would probably drop into the 20s, I guess. But on medium with a 4060 FG, it's probably going to get you decent FPS in this area. Yeah, as you can see, we went from like 50s, 60s to double the frame rate basically here by enabling frame generation. So again, if you don't want to be CPU bound, and if you want a decent experience always above 60 with any CPU, yeah, you will definitely need frame gen. It's a shame that developers don't optimize their games anymore. They rely on these frame generation techniques and upscalers and so on to achieve playable FPS, you know. Not that 50 FPS wasn't playable, but it's 50 FPS with the best CPU for gaming available. It's not impressive. Yeah, it's a big shame. I really hope Capcom starts optimizing their games, because lately their games have been terrible when it comes to performance, and now they're relying on FG on the requirements. Like, what the hell, right? Oh boy. Anyway, that's it. Oh, there's Harley Quinn over here. Hello. Oh my gosh. It is actually Harley Quinn. That's crazy. Okay. Nice character right there. All right. I'll catch you in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.